Let's take a look at working with BEAP modules in Max. I have an empty Max patcher loaded up here. I'm going to click on this modules section here, and then I'll click on BEAP, and now we have this long list of all the different BEAP modules. If I know the name of a module, I can just type it in here under this filter section. So if I type in key for keyboard, I see there's only one module called keyboard, and I can just drag that and load it into my patch. And here I've loaded my first BEAP module into my patcher. Another way to load in modules is to right-click in the background, anywhere in an empty space, and under Paste From, you see that same BEAP category. There's another subfolder called BEAP, and here we have all those different modules organized by categories. So this time I'm looking for an oscillator, so I'll scroll to the oscillator section, and I'm going to load in the module called oscillator. Alright, so let's drag that down here. Alright, I'm going to add in another module. This time I'm going to go back to the modules category here. And if I click over here, you can see that same list where everything's organized by category. This time I'm looking for something called a VCA, a voltage controlled amplifier, and that is under the level category. Now you notice that it's all completely blank because the search is still active. So if I clear that out, now I see everything under level because there was nothing called key under the level category. I'm looking for VCA, I see that right here. If I double click, that gets loaded in, and this window is still open so I can load more modules. I'm actually looking for another module, the last one, which is under output, and it's called stereo. You will need this module in pretty much any patcher that you create that uses the BEAP modules. I'm going to organize these modules, and you notice that I'm doing this in a top-down fashion because the outputs are at the bottom of each module and the inputs are at the top. Let's now make some connections. I would like the keyboard to control this oscillator. So the pitch values that come from the different keys on the keyboard are output through this 1 volt per octave output. And I can click to create a patch cord and click and drag over here to connect it into the CV1 input on this oscillator. The CV1 input is designed to accept 1 volt per octave signals, as you can see in this pop-up here. So if you're ever wondering what a specific output or input is, you can hover your cursor on it and you get a little bit of information there. Alright, so pitch information going in here, and then let's take the signal output, the actual audio signal that this oscillator is generating, and let's plug it into this VCA, this voltage controlled oscillator. And immediately you can see activity here because the signal is being received. And lastly, let's take the output of the VCA and plug it into the left and right inputs on this stereo module. I'm going to hold down Shift when I do this because that will let me quickly create multiple patch connections. And now if I still have an extra patch cord stuck to my mouse cursor, I can just hit the escape key to get rid of it. Now I can't interact with this patch yet, like if I try to control this knob, the entire module moves. If I try to play keys on this keyboard, nothing happens because we're in this editing mode. We can get out of editing mode by clicking this lock button. And now we can interact with the modules. So if I play notes on the keyboard, you can see the keys are lighting up to indicate that we are interacting with this keyboard, but we're not hearing anything because this VCA needs another very important signal, the CV input. So currently this VCA is completely killing the signal. The signal is completely off. So we need to tell it to bring the volume up. And one very simple way to do that is to take the gate output of the keyboard. So let me unlock the patch. You can hit Command E to lock and unlock your patch on a Mac, that is. So now I'm going to take the gate output and plug it into the CV input. The gate output is just a binary signal that produces a high voltage when you click on a keyboard note, and when you release that keyboard note, it reduces the value back to 0. So now when I play on these different keys, you can hear the signal, and you can also see the signal coming in here. You can adjust the overall volume on this stereo module over here. Notice there's a DSP on switch. And if that DSP on switch is turned off, the patch no longer works. You can also click in this bottom right corner to turn that on or off. If you want to change the audio output to, let's say, an external audio interface, we can do that by going into the options menu and selecting audio status. I like using key commands. Command comma on a Mac will let you open up that window. Alright, so in this window, we can see there are a bunch of different categories of preferences we can access, but we're looking at audio here. More importantly, I'm looking at the audio output device. So I'm using the Scarlett 18i24 Gen, but if you click over here, as you can see, other output devices can be selected. Another important parameter to change here is I/O vector size. A more familiar name for this is buffer size. Some of these values may look familiar, like in Ableton Live's buffer size setting. There's also a signal vector size, which relates to the value of the vector size that is being used by Mac specifically, and you can also change this. The highest this goes up to is the vector size that's selected over here. If this seems confusing, don't worry about it. The main parameter you're looking for is to set your output device over here. Alright, so I'm going to now save this patch. I'm going to click on the File drop-down menu, and then there's a Save option here. I'm going to create a folder in my Documents folder, call it Max BEAP Patches, and save this patch in here. So those are some of the fundamentals of working with BEAP modules in Max.